You know, I was thinking to myself, I'm not going to dress up in the Sonic costume for the Sonic 3 spoiler review. I got so much to say. Being in that costume for that long, they're not going to take me serious. Movie was too peak. I had to get in costume for this. Those fight scenes? But Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is now officially in theaters, so it is time for us to go into full spoilers on this movie. So that's exactly what I'll be doing here for you guys, is giving you my spoiler review on Sonic Movie 3, diving into the best, most outstanding moments, talking about some of the more sillier and crazy things, but also that post-credit and end-credit scene that teases what's going to be happening in Sonic Movie 4 that actually has already been confirmed for the year 2027. Sonic movie fans, we have come a long way, and now it is time for us to just celebrate. But it's not just going to be about me yapping. I need you in the comments section, but also this Sunday, I will be holding a live spoiler discussion on the channel. I'll be doing it 6 p.m. Central Time, because there's just so many amazing things in here. I'm bound to miss a couple of Easter eggs or things in this trailer, and I want to hear what your guys' thoughts are, plus your theories for Sonic Movie 4. But all right, with that now out of the way, let's start from the very beginning of the movie and work our way down. There is so much that happened, from jokes, references, Easter eggs. I am bound to miss a lot of stuff, so apologies for that. I'm gonna do my best. I've seen the movie twice now, and even then I feel like I need to go back one more time to experience those final 30 minutes. But starting off from the beginning of the movie, they kick us right into the action, because we go to the prison island where Shadow is in cryostasis, and one of the early Easter eggs with this is actually a member of the Lonely Island, Jorma Tacome. I remember when he got announced as part of the cast for Sonic 3, I was wondering what role he would play, what big thing he would do. Man was in it for like 30 seconds, but I guess he was included in because he was a director of one of the episodes of the Knuckles TV series. In fact, looking back at that article of the human actors that were announced part of this movie, their parts were so minor and insignificant. It's so funny looking back at our theories and wondering what they did in the film, because Jorma just had like a 30-second scene in the beginning. Crystal Fernandez was just like a soap opera actor in a show Robotnik liked to watch, and director Rockwell really didn't do much in the film either. I'll get more onto her later. But man, let this be a lesson for when Sonic 4 comes out and we start theorizing about human actors cast. They could literally just be 30-second throwaway joke characters. Maybe they had more to do in other versions of the movie, because remember, this film was made during the Hollywood strike. And this is when actors were refusing to be part of projects until the strike was over. Yet, they still were filming Sonic 3, because technically Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles are CGI characters. They're not real actors, so they can film all the scenes they want with them, got most of the movie out of the way. Then when the strike was over, they went back and filmed all the human parts. So that could honestly explain why we get so much of the CGI characters. Almost like a happy accident from the Hollywood strike. But Shadow does burst out in scenes that we saw from the trailer, and yeah, it looked just as awesome on the big screen as it did on my phone when I first saw that trailer. Every single shot of Shadow in this movie was just done to perfection. But as Shadow was escaping, we cut to Sonic and his family, who are out camping, bonding together through a little sibling rivalry where they were going to race each other, even though Sonic knows he would be the one to win the race. This is honestly something I do like that they did in this movie. There were so many moments where they just kept highlighting the strengths of each character. They let you know Sonic is the fast one. He is not going to lose in this race. Tails is the tech head, where Tails' technology came in handy and felt natural to the plot. The little drones to distract Sonic like he won the race, the hologram masks that they use, the titanium handcuffs, him hacking into Gun's mainframe, and also Knuckles, the muscle of the group. He knocked down a heavy door, held up a car during a fight sequence, and was used as the break glass in case of emergency, a last-ditch resort if they get in trouble. That's where I was kind of impressed, because although a lot of us were just looking forward to Shadow being badass in the movie, they didn't forget about the trio of characters and how they're special in their own unique way. That then brings us into the team being recruited to stop Shadow in Tokyo, where he's taking down the gun soldiers. Whenever they released this first clip online, I already talked about how awesome this sequence is, and it plays awesome in the movie. So I won't repeat myself in saying how cool that action scene is and how nice it was to see Shadow hold a gun, even if it was a laser gun. They fail to stop Shadow and have to regroup in the Chow Garden, an Easter egg from the games, where we finally start getting the movie's version of Shadow's backstory, which is different. So here's why I want to talk about the way they did handle Shadow, because I've already seen some fans mad and some people okay with it. In the movie world, they changed up the lore of Shadow from the video games, where in the video game, Shadow is usually a man-made creation by Gerald Robotnik. But here, they're sticking more with having these CGI characters be aliens from other planets, and instead, he was a meteor that landed on Earth, and Gunn got a hold of him and started experimenting on him 50 years ago. And honestly, I don't mind that change. It works well. I'm cool with the alien origin. In fact, I'm like, when are we gonna get to these other planets? 3 movies in and we still not there. If we went down the route of it being a man-made creation and we introduced that now people can create these creatures, well then that totally defeats what the post-credits scene in this movie is. So I don't think it's that huge of a change. Now getting on to the way they go about revealing the story, it happens flashback by flashback. Now, if you're a fan and you did your homework, you know the backstory of Maria and Shadow and why it's so tragic. So I was curious how they would play it out for the general audience who are unaware of this Shadow backstory and we're gonna get told it for the first time. I do feel the movie slightly botched that for the general audience. I think they took the approach of, you know the backstory, so we're just gonna play it out and not keep the mystery there of what happened to Maria and Shadow. Like, the movie should have maybe have kept the mystery for the general audience that Maria's just dead because it's been 50 years, so she's not alive anymore, right? But that's just a small thing. Overall, the way that Maria met Shadow and how they became friends, where Shadow is in Gunn being treated like a guinea pig, part of all these experiments, and Maria's there as the granddaughter of Gerald, and she's the one that keeps him happy while they're poking him and testing him and doing all these other things. She's watching movies with him, she's eating snacks with him. I actually really love that, but it was for sure the part where they sneak out and see the stars, and then they talk about the science of a star, where they say, you know, technically these stars are so far away, by the time the light hits us, that star might already be dead, leading to the fire line. The light shines even though the star is gone. Dude, whoever wrote that, give them a raise, because they were cooking. I love that, and it really goes to the overall theme of Sonic Movie 3. We basically have 3 big arcs all going on that follow this theme: Sonic, Robotnik, and Shadow, where we are seeing the trauma that they went through when they were young and how that's affected them when they grow up. Shadow had Maria, she was taken away, and because of that, he became vengeful. Sonic had a mother, Longclaw, she was taken away, died, but it didn't change who he was. He still was the optimistic, happy boy trying to do right by the world. Robotnik grew up kind of on his own with no family, no one to love and cater to him, so he became bitter and angry at the world. And throughout the movie, we see what choices these people make, and I was like, this is actually pretty decent writing for a little kid Sonic movie. That's the actual reason you're seeing this movie have a much higher score and approval with critics as opposed to the other two, because they are taking the story elements more serious than they have before, and the movie is all that much better for it. So that part of the movie, they were really cooking. Let me get on to some of the human subplot elements of the movie, starting off with Tom and Maddie. You could see they don't have any development in this film, but they really didn't need to. I'm glad they're the happy, fun couple. The scene where after Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails have been doing all this adventuring and they've just been at home, finally relaxing, enjoying some quiet, but doing all these hobbies like baking bread, puzzles. Even James Marsden Donut Lord got into crocheting. They become so ecstatic whenever they show up and give them a mission because they were just bored. And that little scene in the living room led to some of the funniest moments for me, because Tom out of nowhere has a little puppet, and usually that is one of like the over-the-top stupid silly things where I'm like, why are we doing this? Funny every time. Saw it twice, funny both times. Tom talking with a puppet? I need more of Tom Puppet in Sonic 4. I'm not joking. He said to get rid of you. We're going in blind. Peak comedy right there. That's then where we see Tom and Maddie getting gun soldier outfits to infiltrate the place, and they use Tails' hologram technology to turn into Rachel and Randall, characters that a lot of people in the Sonic universe don't care all that much about, but I actually love the way they were included in here. You get to bring them back because they've been part of the last couple of movies, but it's in a scene that at least makes sense. You get the little jokey Rachel vibes that the character is known for, being angry and sassy, and then you could immediately get rid of them because they're just holograms. I was like, they're actually using the human characters in a smart way now. But the best human subplot in Sonic Movie 3 is Jim Carrey as Ivo and Gerald Robotnik. So when we start off back at the Chow Garden, the little Eggman drones show up and actually kill Commander Walters. Something I was kind of shocked and surprised by. It's not really a death that like hurt me, but I was like, okay, we're getting some character deaths. They made his death justified too, because in the flashbacks we find out he kind of inaccidentally caused the death of Maria by pushing a soldier with a gun that ended up making the blast, and he was also the one to make the decision to keep Shadow in a cryo chamber for 50 years. Kind of messed up when he's over here letting these other hedgehogs run around free, do whatever they want, and even trusting them with the key of a mass destruction weapon. I can see why Shadow would be pissed. I'm like, dude, why didn't you give me that same kind of treatment? So his death in a way was almost justified to me. But we get a mysterious man in a motorcycle showing up that takes down these drones in really cool fashion, and it's revealed to be Agent Stone, or as Knuckles would say, it's the goat milker. I loved how Agent Stone repeated that line back to him, and even throughout the course of the movie, you can see every time Agent Stone talks to Knuckles, he's got beef with him. The man did not forget about. But he lets us know Robotnik's alive, food everywhere, making burritos out of his egg drones. That was so gross, but funny. And well, they decide to team up because somebody is stealing his technology and using it without his permission, and that's a big no-no for Robotnik. And so, okay, a couple of things there. I like the way they teamed up for that. That's definitely a reason Robotnik would want to join up with Sonic, because it's like, oh, I don't want someone else using my tech. He literally starts trauma dumping on Sonic, and I like that ongoing joke where he was like, oh, moi, and yes, I know French. Almost everything Jim Carrey was saying was making me laugh, guys. But when he finally meets Gerald Robotnik, this is where the movie took a turn I wasn't expecting. So he had actually never met Gerald. He didn't even know he existed. That's another change they made from the video games, because usually Gerald and Robotnik are not alive at the same time, or at least not when Eggman is being evil and doing his thing. But when we would see the trailers of him crying that his grandpapa was there, or like the little Christmas moments, we thought, oh, so he grew up with him for a little bit, knows who he is, but he thought he died a long time ago. No, he like never knew, and now Robotnik finally has the family he always wanted. A change from the video games, but a change I welcome, because it led to some really great storytelling and funny moments. I will say though, their first interaction when they're meeting and going, whoa, it's like we're two guys playing the same character in a movie. I was like, all right, come on now. You don't have to do that. But it's so funny to say Jim Carrey has such great chemistry with Jim Carrey, because the way they set those two up and how they're just always bouncing off each other, saying a nerdy joke with another nerdy joke, was honestly pretty funny. Because like Sonic says something to Gerald and then Gerald responds with, ah, terabyte me. And you just cut to Eggman going, But although Gerald at times is just as funny and wacky as Robotnik, they did make him the more evil one. That's another thing that Sonic fans were complaining about when looking at the trailers and the marketing material. They were like, ah, Gerald's just gonna be another goofy Eggman. He's not really gonna be the more serious version of him. But technically he was. He was just using his grandson the whole time, had his own evil plot in the background, and grew colder and colder to his grandson as the movie went on. I like that they did that. This, I guess, where I'll get into like some of the more sillier parts and really my only negative with Sonic 3, and the thing I'm like, we gotta be careful with doing this in the next couple movies, is the over silly exaggerated humor. Because with Gerald Robotnik, you had those like stop the movie moments just to do skits and be funny. Things like where they get to bond through virtual headsets and do all the things he never got to do, like birthday parties, Halloween, Christmas. I was laughing at that stuff, but the one I think people are 50-50 on, where I'm leaning more on the side that I thought it was really funny, is when they're in the laser room. They stop so that they can have a little dance off, and we know in these movies, Eggman loves to dance. That's another thing about Sonic 3. There was a lot of like inside jokes where if you properly sat down and watched all three movies back to back to back, you're gonna notice a lot of references that came back. But back to that dance sequence, it's one of those things where it's stupid, it's silly, it has no relevance to the plot. If anything, you're slowing the plot down because you're supposed to have urgency, because gun soldiers or the Hedgehog could show up at any time and y'all are just dancing. But it was so funny. I loved it, man. I've been replaying this sound over and over since I saw the movie.
My finger is on the button. push the button.
We still don't know if this will actually be Jim Carrey's last time as Eggman or Robotnik, but if it is, he definitely went out on a crazy bang with this movie. But a lot of it, again, is because it's Jim Carrey. When Sonic 4 comes out and Eggman is no longer part of this movie, Jim Carrey is not in it, which I think is a really strong possibility, you're gonna see a lot of the humor isn't as funny as you think in this movie. I agree with a lot of people where I think Sonic's one-liners that he had in this film not as funny as the one-liners he had in previous movies. I've seen the movie twice now, and the ratio of times that Sonic says a joke and the audience actually laughs is really low. And so I am curious when Sonic 4 comes out and there's no Jim Carrey to just make anything work and be funny, are people gonna see that the silly, exaggerated humor is gonna really take them out of the movie even more? Because I was even surprised a couple times when Shadow would be given a joke. You know, there was this one time where Agent Stone is told to babysit Shadow, and Agent Stone's like, all right, come on, let's make guac. And then Shadow goes, revenge guac. I got a lot of you people fighting me back in my spoiler-free review when I said the humor and silliness is going to be the downfall of this franchise if they don't be careful. Look at what happened to Marvel and with movies like Thor: Love and Thunder. That's a movie that dealt with cancer, kids dying, a villain that's supposed to be the God Butcher, and that movie was ruined with jokes every 5 seconds, and that movie just being overtly silly. I still want some of the silly, fun humor of this franchise, but I want you to balance it and remember the things that made this movie work were the serious and character development moments. So let's keep a balance going. Oh, last joke with Gerald and Eggman that I thought was funny before I move on to the next thing is when Agent Rockwell steps into the room and takes the key away from him, and Eggman is like, oh, I can't believe this, Grandpa. And the grandpa responds with, I know, grandson, a woman in the military. Gerald is red-pilled. But okay, that now brings us into the third rack. So now I can tell you a little bit more about Rockwell. She was kind of a confusing character throughout the movie because I couldn't tell if she was on the good side, the bad side, and even at the end of the movie, there isn't any closure. I think it's obvious she is on the good side. She's just someone that doesn't trust these aliens, but does want the best for humanity and is technically on the same side of them. There wasn't really a scene at the end of the movie where she, like, you know, says, good job, hedgehogs, or I'm sorry I doubted you. She just kind of ends up disappearing from the film altogether. So okay, but I do really like that mechanic and scene where they have this floor that brings the gravity down or has them floating in the air. Stuff like that I thought just really worked well for this world and created a really suspenseful situation with like two people trying to get the key while also a piece of concrete is going down on Maddie, Tom, and Tails. That was really good. But then immediately after that, we get Tom, who gets the key back from Rockwell, is then in hologram form as Commander Walters. Shadow shows up and remembers it's your fault that Maria's dead, plus you put me in cryo freeze for 50 years, I am gonna punch you and kill you. I really thought that was finally it. I really thought they were gonna kill Tom, and this would lead to just an insane battle because Tom dying and Sonic witnessing that, oh, that would have been such a strong punch in this movie. It was also a great turning point for Shadow because then he sees himself in Sonic the same way he was down on his knees sad that Maria was dying. We all knew that they would make Shadow probably turn good by the end of this movie, but we didn't want it to happen too similarly to the way Knuckles turned good in the last movie. I thought that was a great way to do it. And the scene only gets better from there because after Tom is wheeled away to the hospital with Maddie, Sonic is just pissed. He's angry. He's even talking back to Tails, and he tells Knuckles, look, our last resort, I need the Chaos Emerald. I have to stop him that way. And this little confrontation where Sonic and Knuckles start getting mad at each other, energy starts flowing, and it looks like they're about to fight because Knuckles is like, no, we said we wouldn't use the Chaos Emerald. You definitely shouldn't use it for vengeance. I literally thought maybe we were gonna get a quick 30-second scene of Sonic and Knuckles rematching. It gave me a lot of the vibes of the TMNT 2007 animated movie. They even said the same line.
Don't do this, Raph.
That kind of just gave me chills to see that moment happen, and the way Knuckles was like, fine, I'll let you have it because I made a promise to trust you and I'm going to keep it even if you've betrayed my trust. And I was like, dude, again, the fire writing in this movie. But then he does warn Sonic, if you want it though, there's a strong, noble warrior guarding it. As soon as he was saying those lines, Wade Whipple, it's going to be Wade Whipple. It's going to be a joke to Wade Whipple, and cut to camera, Wade Whipple's there playing hockey with it. That's definitely where we were having too many serious, suspenseful, dark moments. We had to cut to a joke, and Wade Whipple playing hockey, and then having almost no struggle giving it up to Sonic. All right, fine. We'll do it that way. And boys and girls, this is then where we get to those last 30 minutes where it's nothing but a nerdgasm of awesomeness. Sonic in super form fighting off against Shadow. Dude, this literally was straight out of a Dragon Ball Z fight. I was so pissed in the trailers when they showed off that moment of both of them going towards the emeralds. I was like, no, that's such a cool shot. Why would you ruin that in the trailers? I want to see that in the movie. But the things that happen after that shot are so much better. So they both touch those Chaos Emeralds at the same time, and so they both get to go super. Really, again, pulling so much inspiration from Sonic Adventure 2. And the fight that goes down, starting off with Sonic throwing a punch and Shadow stopping it with one hand. We all thought they were playing some tricks on us in the trailers. Many people thought it was this moment and that Amy was hiding there. None of us suspected this moment was actually altered, and the whole time Shadow was actually super in this moment. That is such a clever thing to do, but it's also going to make the trailer for Sonic 4 so insufferable because now everybody's going to think the frame and trailer for Sonic 4 is misleading us. Oh, I bet you they're super here. I bet you they're super here. Remember, guys, they did it in the last trailer. But back to it, man. Like, oh, that fight, I wish it lasted a little longer, but what we got was awesome. There's literally them moments of punching each other, grabbing each other. They even fight so fast that they punch each other country to country. Egypt, London, going all over the globe. It was just awesome to see, man. I know I'm sounding a little too hype and passionate, but if you're just a casual viewer of these movies, yeah, it's a cool scene. If you've been a fan for years and watched these guys and how this franchise started to where we are now, your mind is blown seeing this actually happen in a movie. The part that got me too is whenever like Shadow is obviously beating Sonic in super form and Shadow's like, I thought you were good. I thought you actually cared about your humans. What was his name? Tom. And Sonic uppercuts the heck out of him, sending him to the freaking moon, baby. Oh, dude, I can't imagine what the fight scenes in action are gonna look like in the next couple of movies. Please keep upping the ante. But right when it looks like Sonic can defeat Shadow in this moment, punch him out and get rid of him, Sonic changes his mind. He realizes vengeance isn't the way. And honestly, they have a great heart-to-heart in the moon. Sonic tells Shadow about Longclaw. Shadow then realizes the best way to honor Maria is not to destroy the Earth, but just to remember her love, because as they said earlier, the light shines even when the star is gone. Oh, what a great line. And you know, part of me thought that was going to be the end of them as super and that they were just going to somehow foil their plans. I did not think they would get up, do a little hand dab, coolest dab in history, because they go super. Sonic says his catchphrase, gotta go fast, and then the goosebumps went even crazier because they started playing Live and Learn, the one song from Sonic Adventure 2 that fans had been begging for. Oh, I love the movie rendition. And they fight all these gun robots that are from the game in the middle of space while they're super in spectacular fashion. At one point, Shadow even busts out his Chaos Spears, all ending with that magnificent shot of them recreating the pose from the game. I'm gonna pass out, guys. Honestly, I get goosebumps just thinking about it, man. It's so cool. But okay, while all of that was happening, we were also simultaneously cutting to another fight in the Eclipse canon between Gerald and Eggman. It was way more silly and not as badass, but I did think it was funny that one of them turned into a scorpion, which is usually a villain in the Sonic games, and the other one was a praying mantis, which I think were also robot killers in the Sonic video games. And part of it was heartbreaking because Eggman thought he finally found the family and love he wanted, only to see that they were using him and did not care about him. Whenever Gerald told Eggman, "You're no Maria," I kind of felt bad for him right there. But they kill him and throw him into some chaos energy, and they try to figure out how to steer the laser beam away from the Earth, hitting the freaking moon. They piss on the moon. There was something really satisfying about seeing Eggman go from the villain to now being the one to help out and be a hero for once. There was even like a small change in his humor and personality in those moments. And if I'm being honest with you, this is then where I actually started to get a little teary-eyed, because now that they overloaded the Eclipse cannon, it's gonna blow up near Earth, so Super Shadow needs to push it away while Robotnik tries to contain things from the inside, knowing that he's going to die. And we get it, guys. We get Eggman making an announcement to the world, and we thought if that happens in the movie, it is gonna be the moment where we cheer, we laugh, we point at the screen, we're like, hey, we know that meme. He's making the announcement. I did not know I was gonna need tissues with this announcement. If this truly is the last time we have Eggman in the movie, and I kind of hope it does with the way it came full circle, he redeemed himself as a hero, and he brought back some lines from the old Sonic movies.
I just thought you might like a latte with steamed Austrian goat milk. Of course I want a latte. I love the way you make them!
And doing the robot dance and actually proclaiming his love to his friend Agent Stone. That's a beautiful ending for that character. It was silly, yes, but it was perfectly silly in the way Eggman was, and I actually was getting teary-eyed. I'm not gonna say I cried and bawled, but it actually made me feel a little emotional for those two characters because I know what that meant to Agent Stone. He had a great interaction with Tails earlier in the movie where he's like, oh, you're actually friends with Sonic? You're not his henchman? Yeah, me too. Both times in the theater, I was getting watery-eyed. I was like, that's honestly such a great ending for that character. And well, the day is saved. Our heroes think Shadow also sacrificed himself in that blast. They go back to that camping trip they always wanted to do, and they have a little race to end the movie. Honestly, very, very sweet. I love that. But let's get on to those freaking post-credit scenes. So I'm gonna go with the one at the very end first, because I have so much more to say about the mid-credit scene. In the very last end credit scene of the movie, we find out, of course, Shadow did not die. We see his cufflinks landed on Earth, or what we assume is Earth, and Shadow stepping in his shoes there, picking them back up and putting them on, letting us know Shadow is alive, and he'll probably continue either in his own movie or a TV show. I know we would like a TV show. I'd rather get a movie. There was actually a lot of missed opportunities with the backstory of Shadow that they really didn't get into. He was alive 50 years ago. Who's to say he didn't have some sort of secret mission for Gunn in the time he was working for them before the accident, Maria, and him getting cryogenically frozen? There could be a potential story there with other furry creatures, because they never even did the payoff with like Tom's great-grandfather. Remember that line? And we thought it was going to be important in this movie?
I mean, there's been a Wachowski protecting this town for more than 50 years.
They didn't do anything with it, and that's just like a missed opportunity. It's honestly probably just a happy accident, like something they weren't planning, but I'm like, that's right there, use it. You could do a Shadow prequel movie, bring back a version of Tom and just say it's like an ancestor. But if not a prequel, I also don't mind with the Shadow movie finally being the movie in the Sonic universe that lets us explore other planets. Shadow made it very clear in this movie, he doesn't think of Earth as his home, and he doesn't really have a reason to want to stay. In fact, it seems like he's very curious to find out where he came from and what his backstory is. Doesn't seem like he remembers, but he knows he was a meteor that fell out of the sky. I'd like to see a movie where Shadow goes out and explores the cosmos looking for where he came from. That's where the Sonic movie world has the real opportunity to let us know where these hedgehogs come from. So there's the possibilities with that end credit scene. But now getting on to the mid-credit scene. If any of you have watched my Sonic videos for any period of time, you know there was only ever one character I was dying for ever since Sonic Movie 2. And that was Metal Sonic. I have been begging for this character because he is probably my favorite character in the Sonic universe. And when I tell you, I jumped up and down like a little girl once I saw Metal Sonic in all his glory, perfect looking. I couldn't believe it. I was mind-blowing, and I was like, oh my god. So that mid-credit scene starts where the movie ended, where Sonic is in the middle of his race with his friends, but he went way too far all the way to New York in some sort of part. And that's where Metal Sonic shows up trying to blast and kill Sonic, where he obviously moves out of the way and goes, hey, if you're gonna kill me, you gotta do better than that, buddy. And then the part that caught me off guard is there was actually multiple Metal Sonics in there. There was like about 10 of them. That was like really brand new. I was not expecting multiple Sonics, and I think that does lead to some implications on what we can expect from Sonic 4. But we also got to talk about the character I was expecting to show up in the mid-credits scene, Amy. She comes in with her hammer wearing this brown robe, probably because they don't want to lock themselves into a design for her live action. So her wearing the brown cloak gives them some freedom whenever they finally make Sonic 4, because we saw they even changed the design of Tails from post-credits scene to Sonic 2. So that's probably why she was wearing a brown robe. And that's also why I heard some people say Metal Sonic looks a little too video gamey. That's for a reason. They make these things in secret really quick. It's not going to be as polished, but come Sonic 4, he's going to look perfect. But she comes in with her hammer. You even see the silhouette of the destroyed moon behind her, so that's still gonna remain. And it looks like she's gonna bring some context to Sonic about what just happened. Okay, here are my theories and thoughts on that right now. So honestly, we should not have been surprised that Amy and Metal Sonic were introduced in the same post-credit scene and will be the thing for Sonic 4. And that's because both characters, Metal Sonic and Amy, were introduced in the same game, Sonic CD. And in that one, Amy gets kidnapped by Metal Sonic, and then Sonic has to save her. I don't know why I never put those two and two together. Of course, both of them would show up at the same time. The creators of the Sonic universe are very good about taking what happened in the video games and injecting it into the movies. Like, this movie was filled with so many Easter eggs, a lot that I didn't mention because we'd be here for a long time. But although that's what happened in Sonic CD, it doesn't look like that's what's going to be happening in Sonic 4. Going off the usual characteristics and backstories of these two characters, Amy is usually seen as the love interest for Sonic because she was introduced as someone who was obsessed and really wanting to be Sonic's girlfriend. And for Metal Sonic, what makes him so intriguing is that he was a robot usually built by Eggman, but because of the way he coded him to be like Sonic, Metal Sonic actually thinks he's the real Sonic and becomes very obsessed with real Sonic, to the point that he wants to kill him, but also prove that he's the better version, that he's faster, that he's stronger. So that's also why he doesn't always straight away kills him, because he constantly wants to prove he's the real Sonic. All right, so with that in mind, what is going to be the movie background lore? I have to think Eggman actually died in this movie. I really don't think they're going to bring back Jim Carrey for part 4, maybe part 5 or 6 using time travel somehow. That's how you could do it. But what I'm thinking is Eggman probably had a protocol out there that if he actually dies and is gone, maybe this Metal Sonic was a last failsafe that emerges. And although Eggman turned good the last minute, he didn't have the time to stop that protocol from happening, and it went in action as soon as he actually died in the world. That's my theory. I remember we all thought that Robotnik getting the quill from Sonic in the trailers was going to lead to the creation of Metal Sonic, and honestly, that was another missed opportunity of the movie for both Robotnik and Gerald. They both have their own quill, one from Sonic and Gerald has one from Shadow, and they don't use it other than to just electrocute their tongues because I guess it makes them high. That's a little annoying. I get it was a callback joke from something in the first movie, but at least do something with that, especially since you see Gerald take that quill with him. He goes to prison and then he just stays there for 50 years agreeing to build this mass destruction weapon. I'm like, a real Robotnik would be able to use that quill to get out of prison. But again, who knows? Maybe they do elaborate on that in Sonic 4, and maybe Gerald did build this thing in secret in his 50 years in prison, or maybe Eggman off screen when we weren't looking also put this into action with the quill he got from Sonic. But with there being multiple Metal Sonics, I don't know. I honestly went to like a Terminator plot where maybe the 4th movie will include Silver in some capacity, a character from the future that also knows Amy, and maybe they're sent back in time to save Sonic from Metal Sonic and killing him because Metal Sonic rules the world in the future. That's the vibe I got with the multiple Metal Sonics, that it's kind of like he rules the future and he needs to kill Sonic to do that. I will also say though, I don't love having multiple Metal Sonics because like just how quickly she destroyed all those robots in one go with her hammer. Metal Sonic shouldn't be like that. I know he's a piece of metal and they've established in these movies these characters are very strong, but he should be such a strong piece of metal or made out of a material that isn't easily destroyed because Metal Sonic is an absolute threat, man. So I do think there's a bit of a diminishing thing with him having multiple bodies, but hey, maybe that's the plot of Sonic 4 is Metal Sonic is looking for a better body. I don't know, and I don't care because I am just excited for Sonic 4 and I am so glad that they confirmed the movie. I need to see that film now. Ooh, I probably talked for way too long, but thank you guys for sticking around. I want to hear your thoughts on Sonic Movie 3, your theories, your speculation, and if you want me to respond directly to you, stick around for that live stream on Sunday. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at 3C Films or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris. Take care.